What are they looking for on Interstate 10 to make a stop?
What they're looking for is the four main things: humans and drugs being smuggled into this country, and money and guns being smuggled southbound.
Drug trafficking and human trafficking. That's what Pinal County Sheriff Ross Teeple says his deputies are watching for when they pull over vehicles on Interstate 10 just outside of Phoenix. But a review of court records reveals cars are being pulled over for minor offenses, a cracked windshield, raising questions about the county's enforcement of federal immigration law. The Arizona Republic's Richard Ruelas reported on Pinal County's immigration enforcement on a long stretch of I-10 to Tucson. He joins us now. Welcome back to Square Off.
Good morning.
I should say I invited Pinal County Sheriff Ross Teeple to join us on the show today, but he was not available. Now, you and your colleague Elena Santa Cruz have analyzed every immigration case filed in federal court here in Phoenix over the past year since Donald Trump's inauguration. You are the only news organization doing that, so thank you for that. The data you've compiled tracks the impact of President Trump's crackdown on undocumented immigration. What's the big picture that the numbers, I think about 950 cases to date, what's the big picture that they show?
Yeah, we started doing it figuring at the beginning of January, not knowing where it was going to go, that if the worst of the worst, as the borders are, Tom Homan said, would be picked up, they'd end up at federal court in Phoenix. So we started tracking to see where the worst of the worst were. And in there, patterns have emerged. The Pinal County Sheriff's Office stopping people is one of those patterns. But we're not seeing a lot of the rapists, the murderers that Tom Homan said he would get, finding their way back into federal court. A lot of people are being arrested and convicted for simply being in the country illegally.
And a lot of the data you've compiled, which is very detailed, a lot show there are people who crossed once or people who crossed twice. And
yeah, I mean,
that's about 90% of them.
Yeah, entering the country illegally is a misdemeanor. It's a harder crime to prove, not to get too technical. But felony reentry is the easier crime, because if you've been removed from the country and then you are back in the United States, your mere presence is pretty much all it takes to convict you. Most of the people we're seeing are convicted of or accused of felony reentry.
And again, just to underline, about 10% are accused of what people consider more serious crimes: gun possession, drug trafficking, human trafficking.
Yeah, there's some human smuggling, there's some drug smuggling, weapon possession. Sometimes, you know, an officer sees a weapon in a car from someone who's here illegally. There's also, and again, analyzing these cases, we found this data point. The U.S. Forest Service is doing immigration patrols with immigration to find people who are target shooting in desert areas east and north of Phoenix, and finding people who are illegally target shooting. You can't do that, especially during wildfire season, but they're finding they're here illegally and owning a gun illegally.
So it's not necessarily an immigration sweep, but that's who they're catching.
They're trying to prevent wildfires, but immigration is with them, and they're doing screenings and finding people who are here illegally.
Interesting. Let's zoom in on Pinal. How long, do you know how long that stretch of I-10 is that the Pinal County Sheriff's Office covers?
From the stops we've seen, it's roughly about 10, 12 miles right around Casa Grande, right around the, you know, as it goes through Pinal County. There is a border patrol station right off of I-10. And there's 5 miles on either side where they're making these stops. If they call Border Patrol is able to get there fairly quickly and screen people and take them into custody if they're here illegally.
So that's it, because looking at a map, Pinal County covers about, I don't know, 75% of the drive from Phoenix to Tucson on I-10, but you're saying it's really focused in that area.
Right, it's right around I-8, right where the Border Patrol station is in Casa Grande.
And where did you get the information about the Pinal County stops?
While looking at every case that's filed in federal immigration court, one of the things that we've been logging is who the arresting agency has been, and I started seeing a lot of these coming from Pinal County Sheriff's Office. And then the narrative where it says we pulled someone over because they had a cracked windshield. We pulled someone over because their temporary license plate was flapping, it was loose on the back of the car. Reasons like that now lead to immigration authorities being called.
And you wrote the Pinal County attorney shared data from a 4-day operation in May. The sheriff's office made 116 traffic stops, found 10 people in the country illegally.
Right. The attorney's office released that, and that's the only universe of stats we have about like how many stops they make and how many people they find here illegally and how many people they convict. The sheriff's office didn't have the universe of numbers from January till now, but they likened it to like a DUI holiday sweep that we see around this time of year, where they pulled people over for a lot of traffic infractions and figure that they're going to find roughly 5 or 10% of them who are here, who are drunk driving. Here, they're pulling lots of people over for a lot of traffic infractions, and according to that 4-day sweep, about 10 to 8% of the time they found someone who was here illegally.
And as you wrote, quote, federal court filings detailed the reasons for some stops following too closely, having a temporary paper license plate that was flipping in the wind, going 3 miles per hour over the speed limit, which is just about nobody on I-10. For those of us who covered Sheriff Joe Arpaio's immigration sweeps back in the 2000s, this sounds very familiar to us. Is that analogy, that connection, is that legitimate?
Well, I did ask Sheriff Teeple about that. Right, Sheriff Arpaio was going to heavily Latino neighborhoods and pulling people over for minor traffic violations and finding them deportable. Sheriff Teeple said he's not doing that. His deputies are pulling people over on Interstate 10, and it's not as if that's a heavily Latino area. It's just a place where a lot of people travel back and forth. And could a deputy be pulling over people going past them at 65, 68, 80, depending on who's driving, miles an hour and determine the race of the driver? It's hard to say. I doubt it. They're probably just pulling over a random population, and he says this is not that because we're not targeting Latinos. We're targeting drivers for traffic infractions and then letting the federal government come in and do their job.
For traffic infractions, but pretty small beans here.
It's traffic infractions that
on a highway.
Arguably going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit would be going too slow, depending on the time of day you're coming down Interstate 10. This isn't, they're not out there for traffic enforcement. They're out there thinking that this is a smuggling corridor. Sheriff Teeple has his deputies doing this, he says, to stop human smuggling, and particularly child trafficking. Is
it potentially illegal?
No one has brought this up. I think if he's not targeting Latinos, if they could show he's targeting Latino drivers specifically, maybe there could be a case there.
Making what's known as a pretextual stop. Oh, broken taillight, looks like it's a Latino driver, let's pull that one over.
Right, but right now it just seems to be a dragnet of all drivers along Interstate 10.
So the kicker of the story, I think, said it all. Sheriff Teeple kind of summarized what he's doing, why he's doing what he's doing. He said the last administration couldn't care less about it. This one does.
Right. I mean, he said they used to make these kind of stops before, but you called Border Patrol under the Biden administration and said, we have someone with a busted taillight who might be in the country illegally. Border Patrol wouldn't care. Now under Trump, they definitely care. They're there within a few minutes and they process the person and pick them up. Some of them are facing criminal charges, which is how we found it. Some of them are not being charged with a crime. They're just being sent for deportation proceedings, a civil matter.
All right. Richard Ruelas, thank you so much for just shining a light on what most of us never see.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. When we come